I'm at like an interesting time in my life, because obviously like I was really plugged in with politics stuff for like the Trump era, and it was tied to what I did for work. So even though like when I reflect and I look back on that time, I think about all the wasted time, because I spent a lot of time consumed with things that were outside of my ability to influence or control. And I really started thinking about that more and more. Like, am I helping anything in any meaningful sense by spending this amount of time thinking about it or upset about it or worried about it? And I finally, you know, it's a process. Everybody goes through their own process of like figuring out whatever lessons they need to figure out. And so this year for me, you know, over like the last like 7 or 8 or 9 months, I've started to come to a place where like I'm still interested. I still try to be informed, and I still talk about it sometimes and tweet about it sometimes. But I'm moving to a point where I'm really starting to think about the concept of time more. And
I've had a similar journey, but not quite about the time. I used to be I still watch politics. I still stay informed. I try to do my thing. During the Trump era, I would try to convince other people. I feel like nationally, everybody was, right? Whether they be red or blue, everyone was trying to get other guys to see the error of their ways. And I would do it. The thing is, when you're the fact check guy, you spend 10 times as much effort as the bullshit guy did. Right? The bullshit guy just throws crap on his Facebook page, maybe some photoshopped image, and then you have to find the real image, find out what happened, and you know, break all this down. So that's what I would do. And then they would still not change their minds. They'd be like, okay, I'll admit this one thing about like, for example, the Trump said, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan to some extent. I don't follow closely, but he's like, you know, I don't like a football team that kneels. And it's like, literally no one kneels from the Philadelphia Eagles. 0 people have ever fucking kneeled on the Philadelphia Eagles. So Trump implied they did. That's bullshit. And then he's like, well, you know what? Staying in the locker room during the national anthem isn't any better. Why did you say that? They've never done that either. You're implying they did that. Now
God, he's good.
Right?
God, he's good. Did he do that?
Yeah, these are true things. He's a fucking lying sack of shit. He's a fucking like, for all the things Trump has done well and not well.
That's how smart he is.
He's a liar. He's a master liar. If you want me to come to your side, okay. But it's so untrue. All the time, everything he says is lies and untruths. He's about to release his healthcare plan. I know it's 2 weeks away, right? It's coming any day now. He'll release his healthcare plan.
Oh, they're coming.
NFL players are at it again, taking a knee. Oh my God!
Get ready, man. He's coming back.
Oh, well, that's irrelevant.
Well, where I was headed with all this was I would sit there and like fact check and disprove the bullshit that would come from his side, which takes so much more time than just saying, "Hey, waiting in the locker room's not any better." And I never changed a mind. Never. Not
like
once.
Can I say this? Can I jump in? Like the thing about it is, some of the minds that you were trying to change knew that it was all silly. Like that's a big part of like the Trump movement, is that a lot of people like Trump because he stirs people up. And a lot of the people that are getting stirred up are people they don't necessarily jive with. It's like,
you're giving them too much credit. You're giving my Facebook feed too much credit. These idiots.
Oh, well, that's a different story. I'm thinking of Twitter. I thought of Twitter.
Shit. Well, maybe Twitter, and certainly, like you said, like you know, there are people who enjoy the meta.
But you can't change anyone's mind about virtually anything. You can change You've changed my mind many times because I'm very open to having my mind changed, and I'm sure we've all changed each other's minds.
Yeah, I got in shape because of you.
I'm sorry. What? How?
No, I got in shape because of you.
Oh,
yeah, fitness.
I thought he said I got in shit at first too, and I'm like, no, that can't be right because that doesn't make any sense.
No. I was just trying to. I'm sorry. One of the areas in which you've influenced me was fitness.
And you guys collectively were like one of the inspiration. Like there's a lot of people that got in shit, but you guys are collectively one of the, especially you, Woody. I saw somebody came in my chat, and fucking posted a topless picture of you. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. So like that was one of the things
I get graded on a scale. I love it.
that I drew from. I was like, God damn. Okay, well, you know what? Like this is something that's attainable. I started thinking about it differently. I was like, oh, I think I can actually do this. But yeah,
Woody does like the same workout program that I do, that and Taylor also does it. Woody's diet, very close to my diet. Like I'm sure he's got his chicken and pork because he doesn't want to go insane eating ground bison for a year. But like, you know, you don't have to go insane like that. Who fucking cares about your micronutrients if you're insane at some point? I do, unfortunately. But no, that's a year of him grinding, and he like went from somewhere where he was just like, nah, I'm not too happy with this. This isn't really cutting the mustard. To like, God damn. like in a year. It's really impressive.
But going back to what you said a minute ago, it's also like a game of whack-a-mole too. Because even if you do manage to change like one person's mind, and it happened very infrequently, but sometimes in the many ludicrous amount of Twitter arguments that I would spend my time doing, and I still like do it sometimes. Like nobody's perfect, but like for the most part, I don't really do it too much anymore compared. But even in the rare occurrence that you can change someone's mind, it's like there's 10 more people just waiting in the wings, just to repeat something that is like blatantly.
And a lot of them
prove them wrong. A lot of them
don't care.
If you prove them wrong and don't change their mind, that seems unfair to me. You know, like, oh, okay, so that wasn't true, but things like that are still true. It's like, well, shucks, how do I beat that?
It's like my favorite line from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" We're not one at a time in it here. We're mass communicating. That's how you should treat like ideas and like thoughts like this. You should do like what we're doing right now. If there was an audience out there screaming back at us, this just wouldn't fucking work. Like you just have to listen to what we say, evaluate it, and if you care enough to have your mind changed, you'll go and do your own research, and maybe it will. Maybe you'll even see that we're idiots. And you'll get that down too. You'll be like, oh, good thing I didn't take them at face value.
I've changed my mind.
But that's on you.
I've changed my mind about a few things that really in the last couple of years, and it's not easy. Like when your ego and your personality, the way you see yourself, is tied to, I don't want to say an ideology, but like sort of like a social media, like political identity. It's really hard to make that be like a malleable thing. Like
that's not a malleable thing.
It's like a really rigid thing. And like that doesn't mean like I still have like principles that I believe in. So I don't think I've like buckled too much on like what my priorities and goals are, but certain things, certain like specific facts, I've been scratching my head over the last couple of years. Like, was I thinking about that in like a way that wasn't really correct, maybe? And that it's difficult to challenge yourself and do that. Like your ego steps in and doesn't want to, because then that means that all that time that you spent before defending that position that was possibly wrong was a total fucking waste of time. And nobody wants to think that way. I think that's one of the reasons why it's difficult to get people to change their minds when they're really digging their heels in on a certain thing. And even if you present them with counter data or evidence or whatever that blatantly contradicts what they have to say, it's still difficult to break out of that.
You can cut through that sometimes if you present someone with like real clear ideas and then ask them what they think about those ideas or those notions. But if it's ever got the brand name of a particular side attached to it, or it's one of those bills that they've given some trendy name that makes it sound like more palatable, or God forbid the opposite, it's been given a name like the death tax or something like that, for example. Although it is a death tax, fuck you. Don't take my money.
I don't know anything about that.
No, I don't either. It just depends. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's also important to remember, like, online, or I guess not even online, face to face, and like sitting in person in particular, and you're having a conversation, it's much easier to reconcile with someone because you're like, this is a real individual sitting there. This is a person with thoughts and ideas and feelings. Like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Maybe I disagree, but okay, we'll leave it there. Now we'll talk about something fun. Whereas the internet, especially text-based, you're so removed from the reality of the individual on the other side that you just can be an absolute merciless cunt and then just be like, whatever, who cares? Everybody else is a retard. Or like, you know, and sometimes I think of it like, because I know this has happened to me where like someone will tell me like the universal healthcare was a good example. Like 7 years ago or whatever, even more recently than that, I was like, you know, just had in my head like, oh, that's bad. That's a bad thing. Why? I don't really know. It'll cost too much money or something. And then Like it was over time, just like reading more about it. That like it wasn't a one day thing. It was just over time. Like these arguments don't really make sense. We're already paying for the health care. That like what do you talk? A bunch of people are going to get it for free, and it just kind of evolved over time into a different belief system. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a
tough.
bad example.
Plus, you just got to have a hospital, and
no.
you saw how well the current system works, right?
Well, I mean, it worked well because I was sitting there with an arm laceration.
Terrible service, terrible. Like the waiting room sucked. Like the doctor,
Okay, that's fair. The doctor did
sucked.
suck. Yeah, I took the stitches out. I've got Mederma all over it right now so you can't really see much. It's all covered in white.
Derma.
Scars.
It's like a scar cream, and so I'm putting this all over it because
What's the COVID shot?
It's gonna look gross.
Moderna.
Wait, what?
Moderna is the COVID thing. Mederma, like dermatology, is what you use to get rid of like scars.
Woody, gun to your head. Woody, gun to your head. Which is which? Which is which?
The ma is the scar one. Wait, I was it wrong? I was right?
Yeah, you're right.